Hello and welcome to another Tuesday evening lesson here with us on our YouTube channel. If you're interested in the wisdom of Kabbalah, feel free to browse through our lessons. And if you're new to our channel, you'll find 3 semesters of free lectures here on YouTube. It's all free, obviously. Feel free to go over them. And if you like what you see and what you hear, you're welcome to go to Kabbalah.info and join like-minded people at the KAB-EU Academy. In the interim, we're going to carry on with what we started, which is the series of articles from the book Shamati, which means I heard. And today we're on the 3rd article, the Matter of Spiritual Attainment. So every week we're going to do one article. So sometimes might be a little long, sometimes might be a little short, and we'll see how things pan out. If you have any questions, though, feel free to shoot them through, and we'll both try to find answers as we go along the article. Once again, Shamati, the Matter of Spiritual Attainment, article number 3. I heard, we discern many degrees and discernments in the worlds. We must know that everything that relates to discernments and degrees speaks of the attainment of the souls with regard to what they receive from the worlds. This follows the rule, what we do not attain, we do not know by name. This is so because the word name indicates attainment. Like a person who names some object after having attained something about it and according to one's attainment. Hence, with respect to spiritual attainment, reality in general is divided into 3 discernments. 1, his self, atzmato. 2, infinity, Ein Sof, and 3, the souls. 1. We do not speak of Atzmato, his essence, at all, since the root and the place of the creatures begin in the thought of creation, where they are incorporated in the manner. The end of an act is in the preliminary thought. 2. Ein Sof pertains to the thought of creation, which is his desire to do good to his creations. This is considered Ein Sof, and it is the connection existing between Atzmato, his essence, and the souls. We perceive this connection as a desire to delight the creatures. Ein Sof is the beginning. It is called a light without a vessel. Yet there is the root of the creatures, meaning the connection between the creator and the creatures, called his desire to do good to his creations. This desire begins in the world of Ein Sof and extends through the world of Asiya. 3. The souls which are the receivers of the good that he wishes to do. He is called Ein Sof because this is the connection between Atzmato and the souls which we perceive as his desire to do good to his creations. We have no utterance except for that connection of desire to enjoy, and this is the beginning of the engagement, and it is called light without a kli. Yet there begins the root of the creatures, meaning the connection between the creator and the creatures, called his desire to do good to his creations. This desire begins in the world of Ein Sof and extends through the world of Asiya. In and of themselves, all the worlds are considered light without a kli, where there is no utterance. They are discerned as atzmato, and there is no attainment in them. Do not wonder that we discern many discernments there. It is because these discernments are there in potential. Afterwards, when the souls come, these discernments will appear in the souls that receive the upper light according to what they corrected and arranged. Thus the souls will be able to receive them each according to its ability and qualification. At that time, these discernments will appear in actual fact. However, while the souls do not attain the upper light, they, in and of themselves, are considered atzmato. With respect to the souls that receive from the worlds are considered Ein Sof. This is because this connection between the worlds and the souls, meaning that the worlds give to the souls, extends from the thought of creation, which is a correlation between the souls and Atzmato. This connection is called Ein Sof. When we pray to the Creator and ask Him to help us and give us what we want, we relate to the discernment of Ein Sof. There is the root of the creatures which wants to impart upon them delight and pleasure, called His desire to do good to His creations. The prayer is to the Creator who created us, and His name is His desire to do good to His creations. He is called Ein Sof because this speaks of prior to the restriction. Even after the restriction, no change occurs in Him, as there is no change in the light, and He always remains with this name. The proliferation of names is only with respect to the receivers. Hence, the first name that appeared, that is the root for the creatures, is called Ein Sof. This name remains unchanged, and all the restrictions and the manifold changes unfold only with regard to the receivers. But He always shines in the first name, called His desire to do good to His creations endlessly. This is why we pray to the Creator, called Ein Sof, who shines without restriction or end. The end, which appears later, is corrections for the receivers so they may receive His light. The upper light consists of two discernments, attaining and attained. Everything we say regarding the upper light concerns only how the attaining is impressed by the attained. However, in themselves, meaning only the attaining or only the attained, they're not called Ein Sof. Rather, the attained is called Atzmato, and the attaining is called souls, being a new discernment, which is a part of the whole. It is new in the sense that the will to receive is imprinted in it. In that sense, creation is called existence from absence. For themselves, all the worlds are regarded as simple unity, and there's no change in godliness. This is the meaning of I, the Lord, did not change. There are no sephirot or bechinot, discernments in godliness. Even the most subtle appellations do not refer to the light itself, as this is a discernment of atzmato, where there is no attainment. Rather, all the sephirot and the discernments speak only of what a person attains in them. This is because the Creator wanted us to attain and understand the abundance as His desire to do good to His creations. In order for us to attain what He wanted us to attain and understand as His desire to do good to His creations, He created and imparted us with these senses, and these senses attain their impressions of the upper light. Accordingly, we have been given many discernments, since the general sense called the will to receive is divided into many details according to the measure that the receivers are able to receive. Thus, we find many divisions and details called ascents and descents, expansion and departure, etc. Since the will to receive is called creature and a new discernment, the utterance begins precisely from the place where the will to receive begins to receive impressions. The speech is discernment's parts of impressions. For here, there is already a correlation between the light and the will to receive. This is called light and vessel. However, there is no utterance in the light without a vessel, since a light that is not attained by the receiver is considered atzmato, where the utterance is forbidden, since it is unattainable. And how can we name what we do not attain? From this, we learn that when we pray for the Creator to send us salvation, cure, and so on, there are two things we should distinguish. One, the Creator. Two, that which extends from him. In the first discernment considered atzmato, the utterance is forbidden, as we have said above. In the second discernment, that which extends from him, which is considered the light that expands into our vessels, into our will to receive, this is what we call Ein Sof. This is the connection of the Creator with the creatures, being his desire to do good to his creations. The will to receive is regarded as the expanding light that finally reaches the will to receive. When the will to receive receives the expanding light is called Ein Sof. It comes to the receivers through many covers, so that the lower one will be able to receive them. It turns out that all the discernments and the changes take place specifically in the receiver, with relation to how the receiver is impressed by them. However, we must discern the matter we're speaking of. When we speak of discernments in the worlds, they are potential discernments. When the receiver attains these discernments, they are called actual. Spiritual attainment is when the attaining and the attained come together. As without one who attains, there's no form to the attained, since there is no one to obtain the form of the attained. Hence, this discernment is considered atzmato, where there is no room for any utterance. Therefore, how can we say that the attained has its own form? We can only speak from where our senses are impressed by the expanding light, which is his desire to do good to his creations, which comes into the hands of the receivers in actual fact. Similarly, when we examine a table, our sense of touch feels it as something hard, and its length and width all according to our senses. However, that does not necessitate that the table will appear so to one who has other senses. For example, in the eyes of an angel, when it examines the table, it will see it according to its senses. For this reason, we cannot determine any form with regard to an angel, since we do not know its senses. Thus, since we have no attainment in the Creator, we cannot say which form the worlds have from his perspective. We only attain the worlds according to our senses and sensations, as it was his will for us to attain him so. This is the meaning of there is no change in the light. Rather, all the changes are in the vessels, meaning in our senses. We measure everything according to our imagination. From this, it follows that if many people examine one spiritual thing, each will attain according to his imagination and senses, thereby seeing a different form. In addition, the form itself will change in a person according to his ups and downs, as we have said above, that the light is simple light, and all the changes are only in the receivers. May we merit receiving his light and following the ways of the Creator, and to serve him not in order to receive a reward, but to give contentment to the Creator and raise divinity from the dust. May we be rewarded with adhesion with the Creator and the revelation of his godliness to his creatures. Right, looks like we've got one question, yeah? Ingrid's asking, hello, how does one give friends uplifted spirit? Well, that shouldn't be very hard. Where's Ingrid? If you smile to someone, they smile back, right? Okay. So even if I don't do anything, just a little smile is enough to give friends a little bit of a joy. But obviously, when we're working with the friends, it's a good idea to know what they would need, right? When I say need, obviously, I'm not talking about corporeal stuff, but the motivation, the friendliness, the warm-heartedness in the group. Friends together need to build this common feeling of connection, like trust, people you can count on the path, obviously, right? So we can give each other this sensation of mutual responsibility, that I'm responsible for the friends, and I show that with good examples. Giving a friend, like Rabash is always teaching us, a good, you know, elevated spirit is what we need to do. Give the friends a good mood, elevate their mood, be a nice friend, be a good friend, help them out on their path to spirituality. And that's all we can really do. When we're talking about an uplifted spirit, it depends on the person, obviously. But like I said, even a small smile from one friend to another is already enough. Okay, that's just like a good start. Okay. In short, the article's talking about basically our perception of reality, right? How we perceive reality, that we can only perceive it in our desire to receive. A lot of people like to talk about the Creator. A lot of people make comments about God and whatever. That's completely irrelevant. Nobody has the slightest clue about who or what he is, or what this force is, other than what the person can feel. So the whole of reality, we can say, is the Creator according to what I feel. Okay. And that's a very important thing that we should know in the wisdom of Kabbalah. We can't just philosophize about the Creator, about God, or whatever, because we don't know. And here, this is why he's talking about three things: his self, which is the Creator himself, which we have nothing to talk about. Right? There's nothing to talk about when we're talking about the Creator. Ein Sof, it's called infinity. That is his approach to the created being. Okay, his relationship to us. Now that I can attain, how can I attain it? If I've got the third aspect of the equation, which is a soul, okay, which is called a vessel. So there's the Creator. There's his relationship to us, which is called Ein Sof. He describes it here as the desire to do good to the created beings. Okay. And the third aspect is the soul, which is a vessel to receive the light. So if there's no vessel receiving the light, there's nothing to talk about, is there? Right? So without a soul, there's nothing to talk about with respect to Ein Sof, which is his relationship to us. And even if we do have a soul, the only thing we can talk about is Ein Sof with respect to the degree that we've attained that relationship. Okay. And we never, ever will have anything to say about atzmato, his self, his essence. All right, does that make sense? Okay, because I can't talk about your essence either, because I can't attain your essence. I don't know who you are. All right. I know who you are according to your relationship to me, which is my perception of you. Okay. But I never know you. Okay. So I'm always evaluating things with respect to what I am perceiving, how I'm perceiving. And I can never, ever make a comment with respect to the other side either. I will never, ever know precisely what you're thinking. I can't know what you want, what you assume, what you think, what your intentions are. I can't know those things. I can only know from your actions what I am perceiving. That is it. All right. So this is how it is with people. This is how it is with the creator as well. And there's nothing we can do about it. That's just reality. So there's nothing to talk about except how I feel and perceive reality in my vessels. All right. This is why the creator is always there. His essence, his relationship to us is always there, called Ein Sof. And we need to have a vessel to perceive that, and will only perceive it according to our vessel, only according to our perception, how we feel and how we understand that relationship that is causing us that feeling. We will not attain anything else. Is that clear? Does that make sense? Okay. So this is why we need to be very careful in the wisdom of Kabbalah. This is why Kabbalists are very, very like touchy about this topic. You cannot talk about the creator other than what you perceive in reality. There's nothing for you to talk about. His essence, we don't know. You can only talk according to what you feel. And in order to feel something, you need a sensory organ, a sense which is called a soul that perceives the creator. And if you don't have that, well, there's nothing really to talk about, is there? Okay. And this is why he's going on to talk about, well, what are we really praying for then? Okay. Is it in fact even logical for a person to pray? What is a prayer? These are all question marks now. Okay. 99% of the population out there who's in religion, they're all crying every day to the creator, to God or something, some upper power. But what are they really crying for? And is all their screaming really considered a prayer? It's a question mark. I mean, one would think we've got religions for 2,000 years. One would think it would be working by now if they got it right, right? I mean, if we tied a mule to a tree and taught it English a few hours a day, it'd probably work out after 2,000 years. Okay? So it's a question. Are they applying this thing correctly? Okay? So the prayer is saying is to the creator who created us. Okay, fine. And his name is his desire to do good to his creations, which is called Ein Sof, because this speaks prior to the restriction. Even after the restriction, no change occurs in him. Now, this is the critical thing. There is no change in the creator. Even after the restriction, no change occurs in him, as there is no change in the light, and he always remains with this name. So think about that for a moment. If the Creator's relationship to us from the beginning of creation onwards does not change, well, if I pray to the Creator to change his relationship to me because my life sucks, do you think that will help? Okay, it's not going to work out, is it? It's like me saying to the creator, listen, I know you're not going to change and everything, but you've made a big mistake. So please, whatever you've done, undo it and, get us through this stuff. Okay, so this is not really going to work out, and this is how the majority of humanity prays. And that's a big mistake because you're asking the creator to change instead of yourself to change. Okay. And we also have to look at it from this point of view. If, right, if we don't feel the creator right now, right, let's say we're just completely in the dark, right? Let's say we're humanity and we're completely in the dark. The Kabbalists are saying, listen, the creator is perfect and everything is created in perfection. And the only reason you feel crap is because you got a bad personality that needs correction. Okay. So obviously we don't agree with that. So the first thing we do is we turn to the creator and say, listen, you've made a little bit of a mistake. Can you tweak things up a little bit so my life will get a little better? Right? But that's not really working for humanity. So why isn't it working? Because if the creator created a system that was perfect, me asking him to change it is a bit ridiculous. And it's not really going to work out. It's like my kids telling me I need to change my attitude towards taking them to school. Instead, I should be taking them to a playground every day and not to school. Okay, so that's not really going to work out for them, is it? So same here with us. The other thing is, if the creator was to change his attitude towards us when we asked him to, well, that would be another devastating situation because then we'd think to ourselves, this guy has no idea what he's doing. He's just mixing things up as we ask for it. So, you know what I mean? So he's changing his mind all the time. So how are we supposed to have some like sanity in this relationship if one side is constantly changing their mind? Does that make sense? We'd never trust the creator in anything. We say, listen, dude, make up your mind. Are you going to act like this or act like that? Because every time I ask for something, you're acting differently. It's like a person, it will be like a person with a personality crisis. Okay. So the creators, so this is why the creator can also not change. If he did, it's like he's messed up everything and he constantly has to make tweaks in the system. All right. So by default, that's not going to happen. So we have to really evaluate the situation and understand that the only thing that can really change in reality is the person. So the prayer is actually raising ourselves to adaptability to the light. That's called a vessel, right? Because if I can adapt myself to the light, then we've got some kind of a common point where we can touch base. Okay. And that's the important thing. And once you touch base, that's it. You can build on that relationship. Okay. So this is why all of the names, the proliferation of names is only with respect to the receivers. Hence, the first name that appeared, that is the root for the creatures, is called Ein Sof. This name remains unchanged, and all the restrictions and the manifold changes unfold only with regard to the receivers, but he always shines in the first name called his desire to do good to his creations endlessly. And that's the attitude we need to take on upon ourselves. Ingrid's asking again, she's got a question. How can we see our intention in present? Or can we reflect on it only from reflecting was it for others? How can we see our intention in present? Or can we reflect on it only from reflecting if it was for others? Well, intention is a bit of a tricky situation. Why? Because the right intention means I am learning the correct intention from the Creator, right? So in our five senses and in our desire to receive for ourselves, the only intention is the desire to receive pleasure. The only time I can have a desire to bestow, which I can't have a desire to bestow because we're a desire to receive, but the only time I can want to use my desire to receive in order to bestow is when I learn how to bestow properly. The only time I can learn how to bestow properly has to be from someone or thing who is bestowing. And for that, we need the Creator, right? That's why we need a vessel. Now, the vessel is a desire to receive. Remember, that's what we're made out of. So the study should constantly want us, should bring us to want to bestow with the desire to receive. So we're a desire to receive. So what we want to do is we want to bestow. Okay. Right. So we want to make to want to bestow our vessel. Okay. So currently we're not there, but the study should bring us to there. So as we are moving forward on our path, yes, you should do your best to, as far as you know how to do, to put the right intention. Okay, as best you can, according to what you know. All right. And then constantly work on it. Okay. So even though I don't know what the right intention can be, I should try to think about it first before I do an act for sure. Okay. To the best of my abilities. And that's called trying, like kids try and grow up. Okay. So that we should always try to do. But the right intention will learn from the Creator. So what's the point if I'm going to keep getting it wrong? Well, when you keep getting it wrong, you build a vessel to want to get it right. Okay. Because failures make you want to be successful later on down the line. Does that make sense? Okay, the best athletes are the guys who practice this thing thousands of times. Let's say he wants to be a good football player, right? He's the guy who's practicing the most with seriousness. Okay, they're not born stars. They play, they practice, they do things that the normal, ordinary guy doesn't do or doesn't want to do in order to be that top guy. See what I mean? So what we have to do is always kind of like build an intention before the action as best we can. So when we're doing it all the time, all the time, all the time, we're kind of getting crafty at the work. And then the more you do, the more mistakes you're going to find out. You're going to see that everything you do is really for yourself and you're never getting out of this loop and stuff. But that's good because that builds in you a vessel, and that vessel is critical when you want to come to that prayer, okay, which is called actually the vessel. Okay, the vessel is the prayer. Okay, I hope that makes sense. It's a nice little article, very important for us to understand that we must never make assumptions. We must never philosophize about the Creator. We do everything according to what we feel in our vessel. Okay, and if I don't feel anything in my vessel, there's nothing to talk about. So how can I feel things if I want to advance in spirituality? Well, I've got to connect with the friends in order to feel something. Because all the feelings we're talking about with respect to our progress on the spiritual path is between humans, right? Between the friends. And if all of us are trying to direct ourselves to the love of others as best we can, with the intentions, like Ingrid said, right? We try to put the best intention. We try to attain. We try to do what we need to do to bestow to the friends. Give them a good spirit. Give them a good example. Do what we can so they can advance in spirituality. All that stuff. We mix it all. We mix it all with a good intention as best we can. We should constantly be going through ups and downs and ups and downs and ups and downs. This is exactly what he's saying here, because every discernment needs to come to us with ups and downs. Okay, where is that? This is why we've got an expanding will to receive. I'm sure I read it somewhere. Okay, so we should never be evaluating a situation philosophically, imaginatively, but always through concrete feeling. And on top of the feeling, we got to work and add an understanding as much as we can. Radio. That's Shamati number 3. That's all, yeah, with the questions. We don't have any other questions. Right. Okay, so we'll call it a night. And then we'll hook up again. Now there's the Congress coming up. So hopefully these Shamatis will help us and we'll get ready for the Congress too. In the interim, have a good night, have a good day, depending where you are, and hopefully we'll hook up next Tuesday. Bye-bye.
Ah,